Welcome back to the Healthy Habit Podcast, everybody. I'm your host, Dr. Dayon of Healthy Habit Medical Center. Thanks for tuning in here to episode 258. And look who's back. We've got Giulia Borges here representing Better Being Company. We're going to be highlighting the liposomal mechanism of delivery here as a topic. Super important. A lot of customers and patients here at the store have been asking us about liposomal. Why should a supplement be taken in the liposomal form? One of the last episodes we had Giulia on was 199, where we highlighted creatine. We did a intro to sports nutrition, whether we should load creatine or not. How does it work in general? We talked about side effects, what type of creatine is the best, how it relates to brain function, and much more. Zhao has a creatine chews and creatine powder available, so I'd definitely go back and check out episode 199 after this one. So Giulia currently serves as regulatory affairs scientist and education specialist at Better Being Company. She received her undergraduate degree in Biomedical Science from Brigham Young University-Idaho and her master's degree in Individualized Genomics and Health from Johns Hopkins University. Her passion for science and health has been of great impact in her life, introducing her to the fascinating realm of supplements and cosmetics. Giulia, welcome back. Thank you for being here.
Hi, Dr. Dayon. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, likewise, we always have some great discussions. People appreciate it. And we always go deep on these on important things like liposomal mechanisms of delivery is super important. So tell us, what is that in general? What are liposomal supplements? How do they work in the body compared to traditional supplements?
Perfect. I love this. I'm so excited to talk about this today because it's
Let's
literally
go.
what I studied in college
Uh-huh.
and in my master's program. So it's always so exciting to talk more about science. So before we get into the mechanism of liposome, I want to talk a little bit about the mechanism of how cells work because they go hand in hand with each other. So for us to better understand how liposomes work, we have to learn a little bit how cells work. So our cells have a wall around it called the phospholipid bilayer. It's made up of two parts, which we call heads and tails. The phospho part comes from phosphate, and it's a molecular structure, and that's what the head hydrophobic is made out of.
Mm,
Then we have the tails, which is a hydrophobic structure, and it's made up of fatty acid chains, aka lipids. Hence why we call it phospholipids, right? A phospholipid bilayer.
right.
This wall is going to do several things. It has multiple responsibilities. It's going to help maintain the shape of the cell. It's going to help cell recognition and communications between cells and the outside of the cell. It's also going to maintain the internal environment of the cell, keeping it separated. And the main point that we're going to talk about today is it controls what comes in and out of the cell. Now, you'd ask me, Julie, okay, what does this all have to do with liposomes, right? Liposomes are almost identical structures to our cells. This is the whole purpose, by the way. This was the design that specific scientists wanted to have. So, liposomal supplements are encapsulated nutrients within a microscopic spherical vesicle, basically, that imitates our phospholipid bilayer.
Got it.
Essentially, they're tiny bubbles that the outer membrane really closely resembles our own cell membranes in our bodies, which is really amazing. Because of this very structural similarity, liposomes are more biocompatible to our bodies, which then makes it a lot easier for them to survive when you ingest them. And they go through the digestive tract, and it makes it better for them than just free nutrients, for example.
Hmm.
So that phospholipid bilayer is going to protect the nutrients from harsh conditions like stomach acid, for example, or digestive enzymes, or even oxidation. So there's so many other things that are going to preserve the integrity of the nutrients until it reaches the intestines, which is where we want it to go. Once it's there, the liposome is then going to merge with or be taken up by the intestinal cells through a process we call endocytosis. And that makes it much easier to then directly transfer what's in the capsule into the bloodstream or into the cell. So, a little bit about endocytosis really quickly that I love. It basically means that the cell is going to wrap um, part of it around the membrane, around the liposome, and pull it inside. And then it's going to merge with the cell membrane, releasing everything inside. This is a mechanism our cells naturally already do,
Yeah.
which I love. The scientists are brilliant from doing this. They literally took a mechanism that our body naturally does, and then formed a technology with it.
Interesting. Great overview. That's a great introduction. It's basically like putting the nutrient you're trying to absorb and get into your body for health improvements into like a protective capsule that transports it better, more effectively, more
Yeah.
efficiently where it needs to go, and then that can get absorbed better into the body, right?
Yeah,
Good.
bioavailability goes up, absorption goes up. It's incredible.
Are all liposomes created equal? And what determines whether a liposomal supplement is truly effective? A lot of people can say, oh, this is a liposomal product, but how do we know it's legit?
Great question. No, not all liposomal supplements are created equal, and their effectiveness depends heavily on formulation quality. That's why at Better Being, at Solaray, we take so much in consideration when making these products. Critical factors include the size of the liposome. The smaller the vesicle tends to have a better absorption and stability in the body, the uniformity and the stability of the lipid bilayer that we use, and the encapsulation efficiency. So, how much of that nutrient is actually enclosed within the liposome rather than just remaining free or kind of loosely bound is going to make a difference. And then, if liposomes are unstable or poorly formed, or degraded too early in the body,
Yeah.
that also can be effective. So if it gets degraded in the stomach before it reaches the intestines, for example, because of stomach acid, all of that can cause the quality of the liposome to kind of uh, lower compared to it being effective.
That totally makes sense. Good explanation. So we might highlight some other products here, but one that I had on my radar, and this is perfectly connected with the liposomal discussion, is the vitamin C. And I'll do a screen share here in a moment. This is one of my favorite vitamin C's to recommend, and I take it personally like several times a day. The liposomal vitamin C, 500 milligram by Solaray, and we can even just there's other liposomal products through Solaray, but this is one that just is particularly on my radar. I'm going to do a screen share real quick, and then you can also pivot us to other ones that you had on your radar. But any thoughts on this specific product? Why then, taking everything you just said, why might this be a better vitamin C than just a standard vitamin C?
Yeah. Vitamin C is a water-soluble vitamin, right?
Yeah,
So which can sometimes cause digestive upset when taken in very large free-form doses. So
right.
um, it appears to be better tolerated when given in a liposomal form. Another very important point is that liposomes and vitamin C have a tremendous amount of clinical studies out there. It's amazing. Most of the liposomal studies are on vitamin C, which is amazing. So it's going to be better digested by the person taking it, and then better absorbed in the body. It's a great form for it than
Yeah.
just the form of vitamin C. But to answer your other question, we also have other products. We have an entire line called ProSorb line, and it has turmeric, it has ashwagandha, berberine, quercetin, CoQ10. It has so many other products or
Yeah.
raw materials that also have a harder time being absorbed in the body, maybe because of their free form or how big they are, the size of the molecule. Sometimes it has a harder time passing from the intestines through the intestinal cells into the bloodstream. So making it in a liposomal or a phytosome form makes it easier for it to be absorbed.
Great breakdown, Julia. Again, here's the ProSorb ashwagandha. So, like you were saying, there's a whole peak absorption ProSorb line from
Mhm.
Solaray, and you can even just Google that ProSorb Solaray, and then boom, you can see all their different options right here. If you can see in their collections, they have the ProSorb CoQ10, they have the berberine phytosome, which we've used a lot in different cases, even for weight loss and of course diabetes.
Mhm.
Quercetin ProSorb, and then even turmeric as well. But then, just like I said, there's the vitamin C liposomal. I've taken this stuff like candy, Julia, like multiple times a day. I mean, I'm a big fan and proponent of vitamin C, probably my favorite vitamin, and super effective for all aspects of health. But what's one that's been lately on your radar that you've been educating people about through the ProSorb line? Maybe for fall, winter, anything in particular that you've been highlighting for others?
I would say either berberine or the ashwagandha one.
Yeah,
Berberine, I think it's going to be amazing for our holiday season when we are eating a lot more than we usually do. This is going to help keep our sugar levels at bay.
yeah.
No, not a lot of peaks up in there. And then starting a new year when it comes to the amount of stress, new work that we're going to have, whatnot, ashwagandha is going to help manage that stress level, keeping us in a good mood. And both of these are herbs, which we actually don't use a liposome structure for it. We use a phytosome structure for it. It's a little bit different,
Right.
but it's going to also increase the bioavailability and the stability and the absorption rate of these raw materials into the cell.
Amazing. Yeah, berberine has so much research on it. You can just go to berberine health on Google, type in berberine health
My
and
favorite.
scholar. Yeah, it's there's so many different use cases for it. So, and you did kind of highlight, that not all liposomal products are created equally. You talked about what determines whether a supplement is truly effective. So, what would you say then for phytosomes? How do they differ from liposomes? You might have mentioned it, but let's put it all together now so that we get a good recap. How do they differ in terms of structure and function? Phytosomes versus liposomes.
Absolutely. So phytosomes are an alternative delivery system used primarily for botanicals and for herb extracts. So unlike liposomes, where the nutrient or the compound that we use is encapsulated inside a phospholipid bilayer,
Okay.
the phytosomes are molecular complexes in where the active phytochemicals, so might it be the ashwagandha or the berberine or whatever it may be, is a chemically bound to the phospholipid molecule rather than a phospholipid bilayer.
Got
So
it.
a phytosome gets into the cell the same way dietary fats are going to. So it dissolves into the cell membrane and then it slips right through it. And then because the plant ingredient is attached to a phospholipid, the whole complex kind of becomes fat soluble in a sense. When it reaches the surface of the intestinal cell, the fatty part of the phytosome mixes with the cell fatty membrane, and then the complex just diffuses right in. And then when you're inside, when the compound is inside the cell, the plant compound is then separated from the phospholipid, that molecule, and then it goes into the cell and can be used in any way that the cell needs to use it.
Got it. Thanks for differentiating those. And then when would the phytosomes be the superior delivery method? How does somebody know which one to go with?
Yeah. So phytosomes tend to be superior when dealing with plant-based compounds. So like herb extracts, flavonoids, polyphenols, that these type of compounds can suffer from poor absorption or low solubility, or if they have a rapid degradation in the body when it's delivered in a very standard extract form. So if they have
I
all
see.
those cases, then it's better in a phytosome. So for example, curcumin, milk thistle, quercetin, CoQ10, all of these ingredients tend to have a lower absorption rate if you take them in a free form. So when you attach them to a phytosome or to a phospholipid molecule, it's going to kind of like be a rope to pull those raw materials, those ingredients into the cell in a better absorption, hence making them more bioavailable.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. So when you put all this together, then how can consumers identify a high quality liposomal or phytosome supplement? How do they identify customers walking right now in the store? What's the take home there on how can they know one is high quality versus another?
Great question. A high quality liposomal or a phytosome supplement should have clear details about its formulations. So, for liposomes, that might include the particle size, encapsulation efficiency, the evidence of stability. So if it was done with electron microscopy or dynamic light scattering, so the mechanism that they used. If you trust the company, if you know that they're going to be a trustworthy company in how they're going to formulate the product. When it comes to Solaray or Better Being, when we formulate our products, we have over 20 different scientists in the labs formulating our products, testing for every bad thing that you can imagine, like heavy metals or toxins, anything that you can imagine, we're testing for to make sure that our products are clean, and then making sure that the actual phospholipid bilayer that we use is stable and it actually is a efficient encapsulation. And then when it comes to phytosomes, the product should indicate a true phospholipid phytochemical complex. So not just a vague lipid enhanced claim on the front label or something like that. You have to actually make sure that it's a phospholipid complex rather than just a lipid enhancer. And
Right.
I usually reference research or data on absorption or bioavailability. Usually the RUP site will say that, or the TM that it's associated with, if it's a trademark ingredient, if it has clinical studies on those ingredients, which our ProSorb line does have. So, transparency about manufacturing, storage conditions, phospholipid sources is all a good sign of a high quality liposome and phytosome.
Right.
And
And
then,
then you
yes,
can know the stability is there and high bioavailability, which is what you want. When you want to make sure that folks, if you're taking something, that it's bioavailable, meaning it's actually available in the body for use, that your body can really use it instead of just it's so and so amount in each capsule. Great, but is that being absorbed? That's where this discussion plays an important role here today for phytosomes and liposomes, that we're actually absorbing these into the body, into the bloodstream, so that the body can use it. So, what would you say out of these products we've discussed, the liposomal, the phytosome delivery methods, which ones tend to provide the most noticeable benefits for consumers? Which are ones that people have reported back on, either liposomal, maybe the vitamin C, or any one you highlighted, the berberine, ashwagandha, any that are on the radar that people have definitely noticed improvements?
our entire Prozo line has so many benefits. Even our normal liposomals, like our vitamin C, they're absolutely incredible because of the standard that we hold our product to and the high quality, the scientific studies holding back or holding our products together. And then it also really depends on the consumer that's taking it. So if the consumer has impaired digestion or problems with absorption, people taking supplements with traditional low bioavailability, they'll notice a difference immediately because these extracts aren't easy to absorb. So when you take a product that has high quality and that actually has clinical studies behind it, when you take something like quercetin or turmeric, or ashwagandha, you're going to see the benefits coming from them. People that have increased nutrient demand, if you're nutrient deficient, if you're stressed, if you have inflammation, elderly, all these people are going to highly benefit from these products because they're taking it in a form that is going to automatically benefit them.
Great explanation. That's perfect, folks. If you're just tuning in, we're talking with Giulia Borges here. Borges or Borges? How do you pronounce it? Say it.
Gorgeous,
Borges.
gorgeous.
There we go. Giulia Borges on episode 258 of the Healthy Habit Podcast. We've been breaking down what are liposomal supplements, what are phytosome supplements, how do they work, are they all created equal, what determines their true effectiveness, what sets Solaray apart from other companies in terms of absorption. We even highlighted the ProSorb collection, which has the ashwagandha, CoQ10, quercetin, berberine, all those you can see on their website. Just type in ProSorb on Google and Solaray. Then we even highlighted one of my personal favorites, the liposomal vitamin C, and much more. So, what would you summarize here today? Like, what's a good take home for customers? And I do have a couple more questions after that, but what would you leave us with on that topic of the liposomes, phytosomal delivery methods? What's a good take home on that?
Our technology that we use has study behind it. It's going to be more bioavailable and not have any sort of digestive upset. When you take a raw material that is low in its absorption rate and you put it in a structure and a technology that is going to increase absorption, you're going to see the effects of it because it's going to go straight through without interruption into our cells and through a mechanism that our cells already know what to do and how to solve that problem. So it's the best way to take your supplements, especially when they're already low or have a hard time being absorbed in the free form.
Can you remind us on how it makes it through the stomach, through the digestive process, and stays protected? I think that's an important highlight. You did mention it earlier, but that's a very important take home as well that I would add on to what you just said. Because the stomach acid is harsh, it's a harsh acidic environment. A lot of nutrients can get, not make it through the stomach intact. So, how does it survive that acidic stomach environment?
Yeah, some advanced liposomal products, they distinguish themselves by using a dry or bead form rather than the more liquid liposome suspension. So what we do is we do a dry bead format liposome, and they're more stabilized and protected against heat, moisture, oxidation, stomach acid, factors that can degrade lipid membrane in a very liquid suspension, right? Because some of them are in a liquid format. So what I want you to kind of think of this is kind of like a grape. This is how we're making our product. We make it in a grape format, and then we dry it and we make it into a raisin. And then we encapsulate it, and then it passes through the stomach acid and into our intestines. And then when it reaches the intestines, it then blows back up with water. And then this method is going to then preserve the structural integrity of the phospholipid bilayer and then help it not break down prematurely and help ensure that what was in the shelf arrives intact in the gut, ready for absorption.
Beautiful. Amazing. This was super important. I'm looking through my show notes here to make sure we didn't miss anything. This is super important. Couple minutes left. But I wanted to ask you then, why is it so important in addition to this? Maybe someone now pivots to phytosomal, liposomal delivery methods for their
Mm-hmm.
supplements, but then also taking care of their gut health in general, making sure
Mm-hmm.
they have a good, strong microbiome, correcting leaky gut or SIBO or things like that. How important is it? Then you're doing two things at the same time to improve absorption of your natural supplements. So why is it so important to take care of the gut health and any strategies you might have for that, whether it's nutrition strategies, meal frequency, timing, but why is that so important as well? Just take care of your overall gut health.
Oh, Dr. Dan, do you have another hour for me
Yeah, I know,
to
right?
talk about this?
Anytime.
um, I have another line for you. We have the new probiotic line from Solaray that can drastically change your gut health. And the reason why that is because we encapsulate our probiotics in an enteric shield capsule, protecting all of our probiotics from that stomach acid. Mind you, stomach acid is not the enemy here, okay? We
Right.
want stomach acid,
Exactly.
but at the same time, like we don't want to get food poisoning, right? This is a good thing. But at the same time, when it comes to our absorption of our gut, we want to make sure that all the nutrients we take are being protected so that it gets to the intestines and can be absorbed. So we encapsulate it in a enteric capsule shield, protecting all of our probiotics so that by the time it gets to our intestines, they can colonize and multiply in our gut so that we can feed our good bacteria. We can multiply and colonize in our gut so that we are producing things like short chain fatty acids, so that we can feed our colonocytes, so that we can feed those cells in our colon to make them strong, healthy, so that we don't have things like leaky gut. And then our cells can do their due diligence in absorbing all of the nutrients that we're feeding them through our liposomes or our phytosomes.
Absolutely. I like that you said we do want a strong acidic stomach environment. That's super normal, like 1 to 2 pH. In fact, as we get older, the elderly population, they have weaker stomach acid. And so then that can cause reflux and like poor absorption of nutrients if you don't
Yeah.
have a strong stomach acid to break down the foods and the supplements you're taking. So then you'll see things like B12 deficiency, iron deficiency, anemia, magnesium deficiency the older people get. So that's super important. In traditional Chinese medicine, they call it the stomach fire, and you want a good, strong stomach fire to have a good, healthy digestive health. So that pretty much takes us to the end of the segment here, Julia. Thank you so much. Where can people find out more? Solaray.com or betterbeing.com? What would you direct our listeners to?
Solaray.com for sure. That's where you would find all of our products.
Got it. Thank you so much for coming on. I look forward to our next one.
Thank you, Dr. Dayon. I appreciate it. Have a great day.